Mr. Vijay Amritraj is here. What an honor and a privilege to have you over the airwaves.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you.
Why the timing of the CTL now? You could argue that a decade ago you had more active tennis players on the ATP tour when Leander and Mahesh were doing well, and a lot of kids. Prakash was doing well, and of course Rohan. All those careers are on the wane, so to say, and you announced the CTL right now. The timing of it.
Well, I think it was just a matter of the right timing, to be honest. I think today we are seeing a great spurt in interest in leagues. I think there is a interest in tennis that has grown over the years, and most importantly, we haven't had the opportunity to get either an ATP or a WTA tournament to India besides the Chennai Open, which is the only tournament that we've had in India for the last 18 years. Though sporadically we've had the odd event come in and go out. So I think India is a large country. We need to have international players come to India to see different parts of the country, and for fans in different parts of the country to actually see these guys live. We're constantly seeing a majority of events on television. In India, television has made a huge impact on the growth of sports in this country and sponsorships, particularly tennis to a great extent. So it was time to actually bring live tennis to India with international players alongside Indians.
Are they excited about coming here? Is Ferrer excited? Bruguera excited? Jankovic excited? Venus Williams, what are their thoughts? Or is it just, hey, it's a bucket of money, plus we see the Taj Mahal and come back? That's what I want to know.
Well, I think it's a bit of everything. But the first instance is that all of these players who are ranked in the top 25 are not wanting for money. I mean, they are doing well financially, and it's more a question of maintaining their health and making sure that they're in good physical shape for the calendar year. We have a full year of tennis, and I think people who take time off in between and manage their careers properly during the course of the year, it makes a big difference to their careers. So yes, I think what the answer to your question is very simply the fact that along with my invitation letters to all of them, I actually added a 2-minute video, a personal video to each of them, inviting them to come and see India through my eyes and take a look at our culture, feel our hospitality, feel the warmth of the people, and then leave with positive memories of coming to India for 10 days. And I think that might have even struck a chord with them because besides coming and competing and playing for a team and so on and so forth, they felt that the timing was right. They want to come to visit India. Some of them have in fact been here. Most of them have not. But I think the feeling was that I want to go and see India the way Vijay has mentioned it.
Well, just hats off to your ambassadorial powers. You've been such a great ambassador to the game, and you've this collection of players you put together is just fantastic. And I've been going onto the Facebook page, and they've been giving us Diwali wishes, and the whole spirit is just so beautiful. I can't wait. You must be excited too. This must be a personal milestone for you.
Yes, it absolutely is. I mean, to have all these people come to India, boys and girls, both men and women, legends, Indians to play in it, juniors to be involved. I think across the board, I think we've tried to tick all the boxes, so to speak, in making this work. And now it's really for the fans, the media, the sponsors, the TV, everyone to come on board as partners into this sort of adventure and make this thing grow. I have a feeling that it has very strong legs. I think it'll do really well over the next 3 to 5 years and pick up even more steam. My goal is that I want the players to leave and call me next year instead of me calling them.
Super one. The other end of the spectrum, there are a lot of people who are watching this and saying, isn't it better if Vijay Amritraj wants to promote the game at the grassroots level for him to do another bat, for example? I mean, those were miraculous years. The best tennis players in the world, perhaps, at that time, were coming out of bat. And unfortunately for the tennis community, it shut down. Haven't you ever thought of doing that and that being a better way to give back to the game in India?
We've been original in a lot of things that we've done over the years, and not just in tennis. And I think to a great extent, for example, when we started playing the game, and we started for a different purpose. I started because of health. It helped my health problems a lot. And then eventually when I got good enough, we became full-time tennis professionals. At my time, when we became full-time tennis professionals, we were the only full-time tennis professionals or athletes in the country that played a sport for a living. Even the cricketers of my day actually had other jobs. And so I think that we were an original there. And today, 40 years later, we are seeing an incredible amount of money in sport. And we have people believing that their children can actually become full-time professional athletes and not just other professions, which are all also obviously excellent. So I think the feeling has changed, but it has taken 35 years to get there. So I think keeping that original in mind, when we started the BAT program it was meant to be sort of replacing me or following me on the Davis Cup team. That was the goal of BAT. And so we made it quite exclusive. It was hard to get into it. It was based entirely on merit and the potential of becoming a Davis Cup player. And we did manage to provide several Davis Cup players and, of course, Asian junior champions, Wimbledon junior champion, and so on. But the key element there was that 8 kids were going to come and live with us 24/7 for 12 months. And that scholarship was on an annual basis. If they didn't improve, they were asked to go home. If they did improve, they got the next year as a scholarship. And the key element there was the fact that my mother ran the program. And as long as she was there, she tasted every meal that they ate. She did homework with them. And she looked after all of their various religions that they came from. Now, that made it very personal. And as long as mom was there and was able to do it, it lasted for 18 years. It was the only one of its kind in any sport all across Asia. And when mom started to get old and couldn't do it anymore, it was time to end it. And with all due respect, the sponsor wanted us to continue for another 5 years.
That's quite spectacular. So you're saying it's not enough just to get the Peter Bowash coaches or, Dave O'Meara and the gang. It's to nurture them that really built the champions.
Yes, absolutely. And you make them into first fine human beings. As a matter of fact, a couple of them interned at the White House. I wrote letters to my mother from there. All of them have come back and visited her, brought their wives when they got married, kids when they had kids. And I think that's the kind of feeling you want to leave when they go. The guys who didn't make it to Davis Cup teams got full scholarships in the US, including Somdev, who went to University of Virginia. So I think you look back at the program and say that truly was one of a kind.
What I like about your league, which is the CTL, as opposed to what Mahesh is trying to do, is that it's totally about India. It's about Indian cities. I'm not very sure about the format that you're playing. Is it going to be a Davis Cup format, 2 singles, reverse, and a doubles? Tell us about that.
The format is also an interesting format. It is best of 5 sets. And in those 5 sets, each group plays 1 set. So the opening match will be a legend singles. First to 6 wins the set with a tiebreaker at 5-all. And each of the games are all no-ad games. So there's no deuce. 1 point decides the winner of that game. And the second match will be a mixed doubles. The third match will be a women's singles. The fourth match will be a men's doubles. And then you end with the men's singles. Total aggregate of games will decide the winning team. So till the very end, you still don't know who's won the match. So the first 4 sets could go in one direction at 6-4 or 6-5, and the opposing team that's behind could win the last set 6-1, and you're back in business. So it's a total aggregate of games, and in the case of a tie, we play a tiebreak.
I'm also given to believe that you're giving it a long run. It's not going to be is it a 5-year deal, 6-year deal, 10-year deal every year?
You mean the league?
Running the league, the television rights and things like that. Everybody wants to know whether this is a long-term thing. Like, that the Indian Premier League for cricket is going to be around for goodness knows forever. So likewise.
Well, the first instance is that the owners who have bought into the league have got the rights for 9 years. But the television rights that we've given to Sony 6 is for 5 years. And so for the first 5 years, we are looking at a set fees, set television rights. Everything is set at the moment for 5 years, and then it'll start to change as we move on.
I'm pretty curious to know why your mates Jimmy Connors and John McEnroe haven't come in and been part of the legends.
Well, we're too old to play to start with, so we wanted legends who could actually play. I call myself the horizontal dead. And, the young guys who are going to be playing Bruguera and Ferrero and Rosetsky and Philippoussis and all these guys are still competing at a high level of just retired tennis players. So I think they all still play very, very good tennis. And for one set, they'll be spectacular.
And speaking of which, how are you doing in the senior invitational doubles at Wimbledon? I mean, I remember you playing with your brother and then with Jean Mayer, was it? And then Fitzgerald?
Won it a couple of times. And, at some point you start to get too old for the Legends events as well.
Talk about who are the other players, the prominent players who are playing in the CTL. I named a few of them, but, from you, you said the horse's mouth.
Well, we got a lot of Spaniards to start with. David Ferrer leading the charge. We got Tommy Robredo, Feliciana Lopez. Of course, in the legends, you have Bruguera, you have Ferrero. And so you've got a whole bunch of Spaniards in there. Venus Williams, of course, heads up the women's section as far as names are concerned. But she's not the highest ranked player in the women's draw. We've got Agnieszka Radwanska, who just made the semi-final of the Singapore World Tour Finals. You've got Elena Yankovic, Martina Hingis, Elise Cornet, who beat Serena Williams at Wimbledon, and Garbine Muguruza, also from Spain, who's playing for Chandigarh and started off as a model and become now in the world's top 20. So I think you've got a good bunch of both young and older players. You've got guys like Kevin Anderson, who's had a remarkable year. Plus our Indians, led by Somdev, who headlines the Indian lineup, all of them from the Davis Cup team. So I'm looking forward to them combining with the David Ferrer to play in the men's doubles. So that's going to be unique. They've never had that opportunity before.
Well, Saket is there, Somdev is there. Did you get a word across to Rohan Bopana and see whether he's interested playing? Your son, is he still playing, active Prakash?
Well, Rohan said he couldn't play because he's playing IPTL. Same with Sanya. And Prakash actually is coming off of a shoulder surgery, so he can't play. Yuki is going to a ATP university program, which you have to do if you're ranked in the top 300. And so he had to go that week to do it. Everyone else is in it. Jeevan is there, Sanam is there, Ram Kumar is there, Somdev is there, of course, and Saket is there. So we've got a good lineup of Indian players playing. And then what encourages me even more is the fact that we're having two juniors on each team, one boy and one girl, so that they get a chance to travel with them, hit with them, understand how these guys think, how they practice, what their dietary requirements are and so on, and actually truly be inspired by the top names that they have on the team.
Well, we know that there's going to be a home match and there's going to be an away match, but what surfaces are these? Or does it really not matter because they're just 1-1 setters?
No, all matches are on hard courts, all matches are outdoors. And, there are 2 home and 2 away matches. So every team plays 4 matches, and the winner of the southern group plays the winner of the northern group in the final.
Why just south and north? Didn't you do an east? You know that, Calcutta's got great tennis culture. You could have done a west.
We haven't, Calcutta I think is tremendous. We have great memories of playing Davis Cup matches at South Club, and we really want Kolkata on board at some point. And we had several meetings, as a matter of fact, in Kolkata to try to get a Kolkata team on board. But again, it was who came on board first, and also the fact that 5 of the 6 cities that we have now have their own stadiums. So I think the only one that we'd have to put our own seating in is Mumbai.
Okay. So and what's the venue here? Are you doing CCI? Are you doing MSLTA? Where?
It'll be either CCI or Kalina, the courts at the university.
So who's on board right now in terms of the owners of the various franchises?
Well, we have owners who are nice guys who are passionate about tennis, passionate about sport. Some of them are 2 and 3 guys who actually play doubles together and said, this is great. We'd love to own a team, especially in tennis, a sport that they like. So that's the kind of people that we've approached. And those are the kinds of people who have passion for the game, who are going to drive the market locally and stay involved on an annual basis, not just come up for 6 weeks during the time of the tournament. So nobody, over the top. I think it's, each team is doing their own launches, which is great. And also there are other conversations that are going on who want to get involved as co-owners of the teams. So that'll all be hopefully exposed at the time when each team does their launch.
You think the movie celebrities help? I mean, it was wonderful to catch Farhan Akhtar, and he seems to be passionate about the game. He has wonderful memories of Boris playing Stefan Edberg and those rivalries, Courier and Sampras and things like that. So in India, there seems to be a notion that if you want to get a Kabaddi league going or a hockey league going, you got to have the Bollywood stars. Has that been a focus area for you?
Not at all, as a matter of fact, because ours has always been an international sport. International television for us is very important for 2 reasons. One is I think it'll expose the sport even more from India. I also want to be able to highlight our cities in India, our cultures from India, and I want, as the Prime Minister rightly said in New York, the ability to bring tourism into the country. And I think networks that carry our event, which I'm very happy to say the Tennis Channel is carrying it in the United States in 40 million homes. So I think we are the only league in this country, arguably, that is seen in that many homes in the US market. And it'll encourage, I hope, Americans to see various cultures within India and plan their trips accordingly to the country that I want them to visit. So I think that's very much a part of what I wanted to do. But as far as Bollywood stars are concerned or cricket stars are concerned, I think they add an immense amount of value to the local market and to the local marketing. And as long as they're truly interested in the sport, it makes complete sense to have them on board if they like to come on board.
A fan of the game and of yours, I've got to talk about your career now. Does it ever haunt you? I mean, has there ever been a point when you've gone to bed and you've woken up saying, here was I 2-1 up against Borg, 4-1 in the 4th set, Jan Kodesh likewise, who eventually went on to win Wimbledon, and you went on to lose. I mean, you are in the history books as far as India is concerned with those a couple of quarterfinal showings, but do they still haunt you, or has time changed that?
Interesting, I mean, my Koresh match was 41 years ago. My Borg match was 30 some years ago, and perhaps Connor's was also 30 some years ago. And even today at airports around the world, whether it's Heathrow or Hong Kong or Singapore or Dubai or Kennedy, and I run into Indians or people of that nature, or even Americans for that matter, and they've come up to me and said, how did you miss that smash at 30, 40 or whatever? And I'm still trying to go through a year where people don't remind me of that match. I don't think I'm going to find it. But, obviously it's been a while ago. At that time, it took me about 6-8 months to actually recover from those matches. But again, let's look at the cup half empty. I look at it half full. And my life has been so incredibly full over the years in everything that I've done that it's been a total blessing.
And you've beaten Connors, thrice? You've beaten Rod Laver. You've beaten John McEnroe. Talk about those victories now that we've gotten the losses out of the way.
Well, one of the best wins I had at an early age was beating Laver at the US Open in the third round. And then the following year, I beat Borg in the fourth round at the US Open. So I've had my share of wins on the big stage as well on centre court, and beating Connors many times. I've beaten McEnroe, of course, Nastase, Borg, Vilas, Lendl, Wilander, Ash, Smith, Newcomb. I mean, you can go across 2, 3, 4 generations, and obviously it's been wonderful times of having been on the tour for 20 years, representing India wherever I went, and wherever I played, the anthem was sung and the flag was flown, and getting India to 2 Davis Cup finals. A lot of firsts that I don't think anybody has done here, and I'm very proud of that fact. But most important of all, that I think I played through my career to the best of my ability, irrespective of injuries and illnesses and so on and so forth. I think I got the best out of what I could have done in the sport, and post the sport, what the sport has given me in return, and I think that's where I'm eternally grateful.
You should actually do a Google in yourself, and YouTube throws up some amazing moments. Like there's a match where you're beating Borg, and the commentator who's American says, Vijay means victorious and winner in Hindi, and it just gives any Indian goosebumps. The television career, dimensions. You've interviewed the who's who in this world. Talk about a few of the exciting ones and how that has been a learning process.
Well, I think that was a wonderful program simply because we did sort of a Larry King type show, but we did it on the site of the guest as opposed to going to a studio. And that was also very unique. So we were able to talk to people like Pierce Brosnan, James Bond, who did 4 of them, Sharon Stone, in fashion we did Cindy Crawford, in business we did Donald Trump, Hugh Hefner, going into the Playboy Mansion and doing Hugh Hefner. And across the board, we ended up doing Wolfgang Puck, Oscar de la Hoya, Sugar Ray Leonard, Mark Spitz, and of course Agassi and Graf together from Las Vegas. And we did a whole slew of things that brought out inner elements of the guest. And I think to a great extent, because I have known most of them, it was easier for them to sort of talk openly to me on what they perhaps wouldn't talk to any other journalist. And I think that made the interview all the more interesting. And then I like having conversations with them as opposed to literally a Q&A. And I think that brings out even more from them because you're really relating to what they're saying. And all of them having seen me play didn't hurt.
Very well put. What would be your top 3 of those interviews? You can just put your finger and say these 3 were, they were wow, they just blew me away.
I think Andre and Steffi were spectacular because they hadn't done a piece like this together, even in the United States, for such a long time, for a duration of an hour. And that was special. Even when they did their promos, it was very, very funny because Andre said, I'm Andre Graf, and she said, I'm Stephanie Agassi, and they went through the promos, which I thought was pretty cute. And then someone who I'd not spent any time with was Donald Trump, and we thought he would be a difficult interviewee. And the girl called me back and said, well, he can only talk to you for 5 minutes. I said, it's a 1-hour show. Well, he can only talk to you for 5 minutes. So I said, fine, I'll take my 5 minutes, And the next thing 90 minutes later, he was still talking. So I think we did a very good interview there. He gave me some amazing material, which you don't get from the Donald, and that was quite unique. He had, of course, also seen me playing many, many times. And the interview that I thought would be one of the toughest was Cindy Crawford, because I didn't know enough about fashion and modeling to be able to discuss it with her in a knowledgeable manner, And Cindy was terrific. We started off with a mole on her face, and it just got better from there. I said, "You're the second most important person I've seen with a mole on your face, the first being my mother." So I think a lot of these things had very nice little anecdotes in them as well, which made a big difference. And it was also Michael Douglas's first interview after recovering from throat cancer. So it was great that these people did it.
Leander and Mahesh are both kids that you've nurtured, and you see where they are today. Does it bother you that sometimes the media or the press turns around and says, Mahesh is doing his own league as opposed to Vijay's league, or, Leander and Vijay have a bit of a friction thing going post-bat and things like that? Or are you just gracious enough to say that, you're happy for them? Where does the relationship with Mahesh as well as Leander stand?
Well, let me start with Mahesh first, because he's the one who actually, I knew his father very well, and obviously his father played a bunch of tennis with my brother Anand, and then of course I got to know Krish Bhupati a lot better later on. He was senior to me, of course. And Mahesh went to school in Mississippi and in college, and when he was playing college tennis there and so on. So he used to come and watch me play in Memphis, Tennessee, in a lot of the tournaments. And so I've seen Mahesh grow up right from the time he was a young boy, and then they grew up in Oman, and then went on to school in the United States, and then to see how well he ended up doing as a doubles player. But I always wanted them to play a lot more singles, and that's where they decided to go into the doubles format a little later on. As far as Lee is concerned, we picked him off from Calcutta to bring him into the BAT program, and he spent 5 years with us. And so we got to know him extremely well. And as a matter of fact, when it was time for him to do his first communion, being a Catholic, my mother and father are the ones who stood in for him at church. And so we've always had a very close relationship with Lee, and seen how well he came out of our program. We always knew he was a good athlete, and then he went on. But we always understood that the program was meant for juniors to put them into a senior category so that they were good young men who can go out there, earn a tremendous living from it, and expect nothing back. That was the major goal of the BAT program, and that's exactly what Mom and I and Anand decided to do. So it worked out very well, because it provided the Leander Pages, Somdev Varman came out of our program. A lot of other good kids came out of our program as well. So the relationship's always been good as far as I'm concerned. I think when you talk about friction, and for no reason at all, we're completely different generations of players. So there was no question of having any friction as players. But I think the more important thing is that the relationship between the two of them. And I always thought that when they decided to concentrate on doubles, that they should have just stayed on like the Bryan brothers did, and continued to be one of the best teams in the world, and earned a ton of money just playing together, which I think they missed out on by splitting up. And that was the disappointment.
It's the oldest question in the world, but why aren't we able to produce singles players? Is it our anatomy, or is it the lack of facilities? Couldn't be talent.
No, we just haven't had we're struggling to get a player in the top 100 at this point. We don't have one. We've had some, once in a while players slipping in and out of it, but really not positioned well there, and that is a great disappointment, number one. Number two is also not regularly being in the world group of the Davis Cup. Those are the two disappointments as far as I'm concerned in tennis, and that needs to be rectified. I think we've got a good set of youngsters following Somdev that are coming along in the right manner. I also have to insist upon one thing that I've always said, and that is the Indian tennis player or the Indian athlete is going to mature physically later and mentally sooner than the Westerner. The Westerner is physically maturing earlier and mentally later. So as long as we accept that, I think we got to understand that what a Westerner does at 18 or 19, we're going to do at 25. So our careers are going to be a little bit later in the year. Nothing wrong with that. We have to just address it earlier on and say, by 19, 20, 21, the guy's not good enough, or he's had injuries, you write him off. Let's not write him off, because at 25, I think he's going to mature.
Last couple of questions. Well, my dad and Ramesh Krishnan are great mates, and my dad is going to Chennai for his daughter's wedding. Are you going for your old mate's daughter's wedding?
Well, Mom and I are supposed to go to the wedding. Our friends from Chandigarh have thrown in a curveball to do the Chandigarh launch on the 30th. So I'm stuck being in Chandigarh on that day for the launch, and not at my friend's daughter's wedding in Chennai. But of course I'll be talking to him. He's the guy I play with when I go to Chennai now. When I go and play tennis, I play tennis in LA where I live and Chennai where I'm from on a regular basis, and the two places where I really enjoy my tennis. And I play we play a bunch of doubles. Ramesh, myself, Vivek and Jasper, we all end up playing doubles at the MCC on a regular basis when I'm there. And to this day, Ramesh doesn't miss a ball.
Oh, wow. And what a team that was. I mean, I look back at yourself and Anand and Ramesh and S. Vasudevan, a wonderful Davis Cup team. Amongst your contemporaries and your seniors, and by seniors I mean the great Ramanathan Krishnan and Premjit Lal and Joydeep Mukherjee, who are people, you just talked of Ramesh, who are people that you really admire?
Yes, I mean, interestingly, if you look back, we were doing an event at the Madras Cricket Club honoring Ramanathan Krishnan, and they asked me to come to the event to speak at it. And I came from overseas to actually make it to that event, to speak at the event. And there are so many coincidences. Well, you wouldn't call it. I suppose it is coincidences. Ramanathan Krishnan won the national title for the first time the year I was born. And 18 years later, I beat him to win the national title from Krishnan. I played Davis Cup for the first 5 years under his captaincy. Ramanathan Krishnan was captain. Then I became captain. 5 years later, Ramesh played under my captaincy. And then 10 years later, my son played under Ramesh's captaincy. So I think our families have been forever intertwined and linked together. And we're very proud of that fact.
Vijay Amritraj, what an honor and privilege again. And best luck to you and your entire team for the CTL. May you go from strength to strength.
Thanks very much. I hope your listeners will enjoy watching the tennis on television and especially at the matches. And I hope you guys will come and broadcast from the site.
Of course.